welcome everyone. Thank you for joining. I've really been looking forward to this. I've been using the Brain since about 2008, so 14 years or so. And I've focused on incorporating the getting things done methodology from the very beginning. And then over the last year or so, maybe closer to 18 months, I've been experimenting with concepts from another book. And so what I thought I'd do today is I'm going to share how I do my work and make the examples as real as I can while maintaining confidentiality of the people I work with. But at the risk of you kind of going down the rabbit hole of how I do my work, I'm hoping that you'll see how I use the brain, because bringing in concepts from both getting things done, which is where I started, and then also I highly recommend a book by Sönke Ahrens called How to Take Smart Notes. And so what I've done is I've baked in thought types that are ideas from both of these books. And when I take those thought types and combine them with mind mapping, I feel like I've hit this tipping point in my consulting over the last year, which I'm very grateful for in terms of how powerful I find mind mapping. So let me start with the thought types that are in my brain. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start creating thought types from the ground up. And the reason I'd like to do that is if you're wondering where you want to start, or you're not sure where to start, then I'll start a brand new one. So if I create a new brain, let's call it the webinar brain. So here's a completely blank brain, and I'm going to create a thought called Zettelkasten, which is a German word, and it stands for slip box. And this concept or idea is from How to Take Smart Notes. And then I'm also going to create a thought called projects. And so one thing I do is where thoughts land matters to me. So sometimes I'll put an @ symbol in front of a thought just so it lines up alphabetically. Now, within the Zettelkasten, I basically have 2 or 3 different types of thoughts. And I'll get into this in a little more detail when I go back to my brain. But there's questions, there's topics, and there's smart notes. So there's 3 thoughts that belong to the Zettelkasten. And I have found color coding is really, really helpful for me. So when I create thought types, when I experiment with them, I employ color coding right off the bat. So for some reason, questions has this blue feel to it. Smart notes, which I'll talk about a bit more shortly, has a pink feel to it. And topics has kind of a brighter blue feel to it. And then if I go to projects, to me, projects have a yellow feel to them. And then underneath projects, these thought types I kind of drew from the Getting Things Done methodology. So there's an output, whatever that project is for, it's going to produce something. There's a draft, which is really just the output before it's complete. There's people, there's events, and let's say I'm focused on 2022, there's 2022 projects. So that's how easy it is to create the thought types, at least in terms of how I do my work. Now, right now, these are thoughts. So one thing that I really, really like is I can basically turn this thought into a type. And so, thank you, Matt. So basically what I'm doing is these thoughts I've created are becoming types. And so one feature which is I might stand to be corrected, but I think is relatively new, is that thought types can actually be nested. So these thought types belong to this thought type. So I just want to start with a fresh brain just to give you a sense of, from my perspective, how easy it is to literally start from scratch. And now, you know, this is like a cooking show. I've had one baking in the oven for a while. So now let me jump to the one that I've had baking in the oven, and you'll see that I have the thought types that I just started to create. So here's the very highest level of my brain. On the left is the slip box, and on the right are projects. And so, and you'll see that they're color coded the way I like to have the information become explicit in my awareness.